Hello Class 4J and welcome back to a video with Miss Rowe. First, I'd like to begin by wishing all of you a very healthy and happy new year to you and to your families. I know that 2020 was a difficult year for everyone, and I'm hoping that 2021 will get all of you back to normal, where you can go back to school full time, where you can go to birthday parties and you can go to sporting events and all of those fun things that you used to do. And with prayer and hope in our hearts, I hope that that's where 2021 will place us, in a good and better place. But for now, we still have to continue with our religious education virtually, and we're doing okay. We're halfway through. So you should have reviewed Unit 4, and Unit 4 teaches us a lot about God's plan for each and every one of us. We learned in Unit 4 that everyone has a vocation. A vocation is God's plan for our lives, the purpose for which He made us. That's right, God had a purpose for each and every one of us. Not everyone responds to God's call the way He would like, but remember from past videos that we have free will. So we could answer God's call, or we don't have to answer God's call. Now, what do we mean by a call? Is God getting on the phone and calling us and telling us, Timothy has to be a priest? No, it's God's way of communicating with us and kind of directing us to where He wants us to be. And sometimes we ignore that because it's not always convenient where God wants us to be when we want to be someplace other than where He wants us to be. Yes, it may sound a little bit confusing, but let me just give you this, that in one part of the chapter, God calls His disciples one by one to follow Him. And it must have been very convenient for them to say, okay, I don't want to go. I want to stay here with my family. I want to stay here with all my possessions. But one by one, they followed Him and they left their families and they left all of their possessions. They could have said, no, I don't want to follow. I don't want to follow you. Why would I leave everything behind? So that's what I pretty much mean. But the Catholic Church recognizes 4 ways in which people respond to God's call to serve. 1 is priesthood. 2nd is married life. The 2nd is consecrated life. Consecrated life is where someone will take vows and lead a life of holiness, like nuns or sisters and brothers. Not your sisters and brothers, but they're called sisters and brothers who, they don't get married, but they teach in our schools. They assist in hospitals. They pray. Some of them are live a life totally in prayer, and never interact with the public, but they simply pray all of the time. And that would be a consecrated life, or just simply the single life. And baptism starts this journey of holiness to serve God for each and every one of us. When Jesus called His disciples to follow Him, they left, like I said, they left their families behind and all their worldly possessions behind. How many of us would be able to do that? How many of us would be able to say, okay, I'm going to follow you and I'm going to leave everyone that I love, everything that I love, everything that I know behind, and I'm going to follow you? And I don't know if I'd be able to do it. But He had great plans for these dedicated men. And these dedicated men, these disciples, made our church and what we are today. Where would we be without them? And He has great plans for you. For we're all called to serve and to be saints. Some people have showed their service to God and to others in an exceptional way. And what I mean an exceptional way, their vocation in life has been to live by the examples of Jesus in a holy way. When you think of a saint, which you may you're probably named after a saint, and that would be your patron saint. So my patron saint, my name is Roseanne. My patron saint would be Rose. Although I follow other saints more than I follow Saint Rose, but my patron saint would be my name saint, which would be Saint Rose. And saints are those people who have led holy lives. Growing up, whenever I would think of a saint, I have always thought of someone old, a saint that lived many, many years ago, and who has done something to be a saint that I would never be able to do. That would just, some have given their life, some have built hospitals, some, I can't even think of the many things that all of our saints would do. But recently I became interested in a young man who was on his way to sainthood, and someone who lived a relatively normal life. I'm not going to tell you his name. I will give you hints about his life and his death. But I'll tell you this, the first student in 4J to email me this young man's correct name will win a prize delivered to their home by mail. So I'm going to give you some hints about this saint. And I think you'll be surprised about how much you're alike as to how much you're different. So this young man, I'll give you the hints. This young man was born in the month of May. Now remember, he's on his way to becoming a saint. He is not yet a saint. So this young man was born in the month of May. He died in 2006 when he was 15 years old. Those around him, all of his friends, considered him a computer geek on account of his passion and skills with computers and the internet. He also liked films, comic book editing, and playing PlayStation. He would worry about friends of his whose parents were divorcing and would invite them to his home to support them. He also defended his schoolmates who had disabilities when bullies mocked them. Outside of school, he did voluntary work with the homeless. When he was 7 years old, he asked his parish priest if he could make his first Holy Communion. In his country, they would make communion at the age of 9 or 10. From the day he received, his parish priest granted him permission to receive his first communion when he was 7. And from the day he received his first communion, he never missed a daily mass. He chose Mary, the Mother of God, the perfect model of holiness. Remember, Mary is perfect in every single way. Always remember that. Mary is perfect. She is like the top of all saints. He chose Mary, the perfect model of holiness, to be his great confidant, and he never failed to honor her by reciting the Holy Rosary every day. With this young man's beatification in October of 2020 in Assisi, Italy, let me just explain, becoming beatified means that you are one step closer to becoming a saint. So he would be blessed and then his name. So he is on the road to becoming a saint. So he right now has one step more to go to become a saint. We learned that in chapter 11, I believe. The Catholic Church now has its first blessed who loved Super Mario. He loved Super Mario and Pokemon, but not as much as he loved the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. He was just an ordinary yet not so ordinary kid, just like you. He loved life and computers and Pokemon and Super Mario and soccer, but he loved serving Jesus more. He loved computers, and he put his computer genius to work and developed a website documenting the world's Eucharistic miracles, meaning a miracle that would happen due to the Eucharist when the priest consecrates and Jesus is present in that Eucharist. There were numerous miracles throughout history that have happened, and he started to document those. He started creating this website when he was 11 years old and completed it before he died of leukemia when he was 15. I no longer think of saints after reading about this young man as being old and doing things that I'd never be able to do. I think of you, Class 4J, the future of our church. The saints you are called to be. Yes, it is possible to be just like this young man who loved Super Mario, Pokemon, and computers, and he also loved Jesus and he loved to serve him. So if you're able to figure out who this young man is and his name, email on Google. No, don't email me here at the YouTube. Email me on Google Classroom. And the first one to email the correct name of this young man who is destined to be a saint in the Catholic Church will win a prize that I will mail to you. So I hope to find out which one of you will be the first to email me with this young man's name. I gave you quite a few hints, so you should be able to Google it. He's a very handsome young man, and I know had he not died, he probably would have done great things, but he's doing great things in heaven, I am sure. So until next month, when we review Unit 5, take care, Class 4J, and be good.